And good morning, everybody. Welcome. Hot Takes Goodman and Renck. You would not know it by looking at Troy. You would think he's in traffic right now, but actually, Troy, you are at spring training in the players' parking lot. Who are you watching walk by you right now?
I haven't seen anyone yet. There was some, it looked like a player. I don't know the players like I used to, but it looked like a pitcher maybe because his arm was hanging a little bit. So, no, it's right outside of Talkie Stick. This facility, of all the things the Rockies have had issues with over the last decade, this facility is not one of them. The same people that built the Cowboys complex in Dallas built this. I mean, it remains a palace. So I'm looking forward to getting inside later today and talking to some players.
With Arenado on the Diamondbacks, you think he's going to peek his head into the Rockies locker room, or are those days over?
He might now.
For those that don't know, they share a facility.
Yeah, it's crazy. You would never know they're here. That this thing is so vast, you would never know they exist. It is the crown jewel of all spring training sites, not just Arizona. But yeah, I'd like to see Nolan and say hello. I don't know what their schedule is, and I'm hoping to sneak out to Team USA's practice for the WBC later today.
All right, real quick, want to tell you about the Sportsbook Bar and Grill. You can find them in the DTC, Highlands Ranch, and Parker as well. I was just there on Friday night with a buddy of mine, Thomas. We were watching the Nuggets game, grabbed a couple of drinks, went with the blackened chicken sandwich, just outstanding on a ciabatta bread. You have your choice between like tots and fries. Just love going there because the food is great. Actually, I was in there earlier that day for lunch, and there were a lot of people there as well. So it's more than just a great place to watch games. The menu is absolutely outstanding. Heck, I went there twice in one day. I don't have a drinking problem. I have a sportsbook problem. I just like going there because I'm buddies with Judson and Jeremy and John. They're great owners. They built a sports bar for sports fans with an outstanding menu as well. Sportsbook Bar and Grill. You can find them in the DTC Highlands Ranch and Parker. Time now for the lead.
The lead is presented by Sasquatch Casino, a family-owned casino that treats you like family.
Troy, Nuggets finished up one of their most difficult 3-game stretches of the season against the Celtics, Thunder, yesterday against the Timberwolves. They won the opener against Boston, lost to OKC, lost to Minnesota. How concerning is this? Or are you just going to reserve judgment with 21 games to go in the regular season until Gordon and Watson return to the lineup? And Gordon could return this week.
No, you have to be concerned at this point. I mean, if you're going to tell me that Aaron Gordon at age 31 coming off 7 leg injuries in 9 months is going to save the season, could he? Yeah, he could. I just think that's a really risky proposition. Peyton Watson will help. And, everyone likes Cam Johnson. I've only been around him a little bit. He has just shrunk in the spotlight. Every time they need him to make a big shot, he hasn't. Now, yesterday he was dealing with looked like an ankle injury, it turns out, but he can't make a big shot. So maybe with Watson back, maybe with Gordon back, they not only improve the defense, but they improve in the clutch. But you talked about it, Eric. They can't win at home. They're 16-12 at home. People don't realize they're 16-12 at home. They won their first 6 games at home. Since then, they're 10-12 at home. Yeah. No contender is underwater at home for 22 games. So, yeah, I'm really concerned. And if they're not careful, this is going to be a one and done. And the pressure, I wrote this last week after the Celtics game, pressure's on Adelman. I like the guy. But, they fired Michael Malone, and I understood why. There's no way they were going to keep him. But there's going to be questions of whether or not Adelman was the right choice if they go one and done with this roster.
Desperate people do desperate things. When Aaron Gordon comes back to the lineup, don't know if he's going to be 70%, 80%, 90%, so on and so forth. Are you concerned that Adelman rushes back Gordon and Watson, considering the team is not playing particularly well?
Yeah, one of the hardest things in sports, in my experience, is you react to the player's symptoms, not your schedule, not where you are in the standings. You have to let the player's body tell you how you should treat him. Not, somebody else got hurt, you have to rush back. It doesn't change his healing process. If you start losing, it doesn't change his healing process. Everything I was told when I was out there last week is that Gordon's by far ready. They have really just told him, you got to wait, you got to wait, you got to wait. Like that he could have come back last week easily. Right. I'm not worried about Watson. If it's a traditional hamstring injury, you sit out 4 or 5 weeks. In theory, you should be fine. I know we all think, it always comes back. It doesn't always. It doesn't. And Watson's 23. The problem with Gordon is he's 31, and those of us who are aging, Eric, me, when you have a hamstring issue, I pulled my hamstring as an adult, I think like 6 times. Every time it gets easier to pull, and every time it hurts more. So, I mean, it just gets easier to do. So, the easy answer is you cannot let the schedule and results determine how you handle Aaron Gordon. Because if he goes out again, the season is over.
Yeah. Real quick, this is a 40-minute podcast. I'm thinking of making this 3 hours, not because I want you to miss the locker room. It's because I want to see you turn into the villain from Batman, Two-Face. Because right now, the right side of your face is burning up because of the sun. The left side is just fine. And I just want to see what you look like tomorrow without sunscreen sitting in your car doing this podcast.
I think at that first commercial break, I'm going to move so the sun's at my back. I forgot how bright it was in the morning out here. I've been in California. I was in Malibu watching my waves, Pepperdine waves. It was 95 degrees on Friday in LA area. That's smoking hot. So I apologize. I'm going to put the visor
listen,
down too.
Troy, don't apologize. It's your face. I don't give a shit what you do. Feel free to turn the car around or just burn yourself to pieces where you have layers just coming off. But yes, I would recommend moving your car just a little bit, because when you hop out of the car, you might not like what you see. Let's get back to the Nuggets again. Adelman was upset with the way the team played in the second and the fourth quarter against OKC on Friday. He took it to another level in terms of being upset in the second quarter yesterday against the Timberwolves, saying the first 2 minutes were inexcusable and he'll have to find lineups, quote, that will actually go out there and compete at a higher level. What does this say about the current mindset of this team and the way they are playing when they have a game on national television Sunday afternoon against a Minnesota team that was nipping at their heels in the standings? Now Minnesota has passed them. Minnesota is now the 4th seed. The Nuggets are the 5th seed, and we're getting close to the playoffs. You're on mute, so you know.
It's inexcusable. I'm sure you watched Jokic's press conference, and he was asked by my colleague.
How did you do that, by the way? Did you just move down a visor or something?
Yep, the visor, yeah.
Or the sun went up suddenly in the last 30 seconds?
I commanded the sun.
Well done,
put
Moses.
It on mute.
Well done.
I know, watched Jokic's press conference, and Bennett Durando, my colleague from the Post, asked him, how concerned are you with this stretch and, what's happened? And Jokic said that, that it can be a good thing. The struggle can be a good thing. It can make guys worry more, and it can make them play harder. And I'm like, wait, what? We're asking guys to play hard in March? I got to tell you to get up for a game against the T-Wolves on national TV? I mean, where was my bonus Jonas brother, Jonas Valanciunas? He disappeared. Cam Johnson disappeared. I mean, Murray and Jokic played well, but that was like an old school Nuggets loss. 2 guys play well. Strother disappeared. I mean, wow. That was, as bad as that Golden State loss was just as humiliating. There were parts of that Minnesota game that were just equally concerning. And again, here's the thing with Adelman, where you run into as the former guy who was always the shoulder to cry on. He has created kind of this meritocracy that he says on the rotation, but a democracy on how they run the team during the games, allowing players to talk during timeouts and you guys communicate. Well, it just puts so much ownership on the guys that I do wonder now, with Gordon out and that dynamic off a little bit, what's going on? I mean, it just feels like we're seeing the last breaths of a run of this group, that they're going to have to make significant changes in the offseason. And I don't blame him for Michael Porter Jr. I'm not going to be that guy, because it created the bench. They weren't going to win with MPJ and no bench either, but they're basically back to the same spot they were last year, just with different reasons. So again, they have a Hail Mary. That's Gordon. That's Watson. But doesn't it feel like it goes deeper than that, Eric? That there's just something wrong with this team this year?
Yeah, it doesn't feel like that. You're right. It feels like something's missing. And I'll tell you what might be missing a little bit is the edge and the energy and the directness of Michael Malone. Because whether you liked what he said or not at press conferences, calling out his players, Adelman said it was inexcusable the first 2 minutes of the second quarter against the Timberwolves, and then said he'll have to find lineups that will actually go out there and compete at a higher level. If Malone felt that way, he would have said it even more directly, more harshly. Unfortunately, with him being there as long as he was, he kind of wore out his welcome. That happens with coaches all the time. But the team, generally speaking, responded when Malone said stuff like that. After the Golden State loss, they came out and played their best defensive game of the season in years. But it was kind of like a death surge. And for those that don't know what a death surge is, when you are really in your final, hour, 2 hours of life, suddenly life comes back to you, but for a very fleeting moment, for like minutes, and then you're right back down. And unfortunately, that is the end. The death surge, unfortunately, looks like what happened in the Boston game. They played well for the most part against Oklahoma City. They played well for the most part defensively. But, it's like when you talk to people in life and they say they're going to make changes and then they do make a change, but there's no lasting power at all. They just go back to who they were. They made a change game 1. Game 3 was against Minnesota, and suddenly they're back to the Nuggets, who have been struggling at home, struggling in the second quarter, struggling in the fourth quarter.
It sounds like my diet, right? Eat a salad one day, and then 2 days later, I'm back eating like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. I mean, it's hard to make significant change.
Correct.
It is. And I was at the Celtics game, and there was no question they were inspired defensively, Eric, because they shot like crap that night. It was one of their worst shooting nights of the year in a win, but Bruce Brown set the tone on Jaylen Brown, and it carried over against OKC. I love the fact early in that game they matched their physicality. But then at the end of the game, what's plagued them, and you were on it way before me, they can't freaking make a shot in the clutch. They had the OKC game in their hand. Cam Johnson, three-pointer, wide open. I would have waited because it gave him a shot to get beat in regulation, but he had a wide open three and missed it. We saw that with Peyton Watson earlier in the season. They cannot close out games. Right. And now to your point, it's funny. They don't miss Malone. They don't. But could they have gotten a different coach? It's like right message, wrong messenger. Like Malone here, if you watch that Portland game last year about this time, he literally was trying to get fired at the podium. These guys don't listen to me. They lie. They don't watch film. They're terrible. They're not. It was just like, okay, either he knows he's getting fired or he wants to be fired when he walks off this stage. So it wouldn't have been him, but maybe someone like him, this message, because that's the problem with Adelman. I've watched this with assistant coaches through the years. Guys love him. They want him to be their head coach, but they just kind of subconsciously take advantage of them because they're friends with them. They've known him in a different way. And so that's the challenge for Adelman. He's brilliant guy offensively, but he's not a defensive whiz either. Malone was, but they didn't play defense for Malone. So at some point, it's just like it's the personnel, the on-off button, and they're trying to do this for the third straight year of just wait till the end and we're going to play defense.
They talk they talk a good game about defense. Tim Hardaway Jr. after the game said, "We know we can score. We just have to play better defensively."
I know they say this after every game.
Right. They talk, but they don't follow through. Once they start following through, things might look different. But it's like having a teenager or a child who says, "I'll clean my room," and then they do it that moment, and they might do it the next day, and then you walk into their room day 3, and it looks like a tornado hit. Right? You have kids, I have kids, but that's the way the Nuggets are defensively. Let's get into briefly what happened in that Oklahoma City game. That dust up, and that's putting it mildly, that dust up between Dort and Jokic. For a while, it seemed like the Nuggets' rival was Minnesota because they had some pretty intense playoff series. Everybody wants a great rival, right? I mean, but look where the Nuggets are. They are the only team, I think, outside of Utah in the Mountain Time Zone. That is the problem for the Broncos as well. That is the problem, generally speaking, for all of the teams that play here in Colorado. Oklahoma City is now the defending champs. Obviously, they're a very good team again this year. Do you, as a fan, like that this dust-up happened because now this takes it to another level if indeed the Nuggets find a way to get to a second round to potentially play Oklahoma City?
I love it. I love the beef. I love it. That's old 80s. It's old or late 80s, early 90s, teams getting after each other. SGA throwing the ball at Jokic and him pushing back. I loved it. The thing I did not love is fake tough guy Lu Dort. What a bullshit move by Dort. If you want to foul Jokic, foul him. Go up when he goes up, push him, hammer him a hard foul. Go Bill Laimbeer. Go Rick Mahorn. Don't do some bullshit, chicken shit. Put your hip out as a guy's coming up. I've had that done to my son when he played basketball in high school. It's not comparable. Just the idea of somebody cheap shotting him. If you're going to foul a guy, Dort. You look like a middle linebacker and you're pulling that shit. That was such weak sauce. And it's not because I'm a Nuggets guy. If a Nuggets player had done that to SGA, I'd say the same thing. Right. If you're going to foul a guy, foul him, Eric. And he could have got hurt. It was like, oh, he barely did it. He could have hurt his knee. You hit a guy off balance with that kind of BS. He falls and twists his knee.
He didn't hit him. He stuck out his leg.
That's
the chicken shit thing. He didn't hit him. He stuck out his leg to try and trip him.
Make contact is what I mean. Make contact with him. Right. Purposely make. I saw the same thing. Remember this with Pat Beverly and Russell Westbrook? Back in the day, several years ago, and Westbrook missed significant time. It was the same crap. Stick your leg out, knee out. Come on now. If you want to do something, then foul him underneath, hammer him over the back, and stare him down. Fine. I don't love that, but that's fine. That's like man-to-man, stare me. Don't do that. Don't do that. I mean, that is just as weak. And then the way they reacted cheering it, really? Can you imagine if someone had did that to SGA? He would have flopped and ended up somewhere in the 7th or 8th row. But you think they would have been pissed?
Right.
He weighs like 180 pounds. He would have flipped, fallen over, gone under the scorer's table, popped up like whack-a-mole with his head out. I mean, come on now. That's just, if you're going to do that, bring in Hartenstein and have him foul Jokic. Fine. Play that way. But the whole thing, that whole sequence was disappointing. And I think Adelman was right when he said it was ridiculous, not only the play, but the way they reacted to it. Like, it's no big deal. Really? Okay, so when we see SGA in a few weeks, we're going to show you it's no big deal. When he goes to the lane, just get ready. We're going to show you what no big deal. That's what I'd be like. I'd tell him right when we go up for the jump. I'd have Bruce Brown start. I'd have one of those dudes tell him, hey, just so you know, man, you better be ready when you go to the rack. You're going to be on the free throw line, and you might have to see with your eyes squinting because you just are wincing in pain.
Who's going to be the guy to take him down? If you had to make a prediction.
It would have to be Brown for me. If you're talking about SGA, a hard foul, and I don't want anyone hurt. Never. Just saying, there's a way to get retribution legally within a game with a hard foul. That's been part of the NBA for 35 years. That, for me, would be Bruce Brown. He's a tone setter that way. I thought it would be Jonas Valanciunas. He's just not that guy. He's not. He's a good rebounder, but he looks the part.
He sure does.
He's not that guy. The best guy that would have been to get retribution would have been Jokic's brothers.
Oh,
in that.
Yeah, but then they'd have to come out of the stands, and then we have a Malice at the Palace point.
Yeah, we don't want that.
2.0. Yeah.
I think who do you think it would be? I'm saying if it's going to be a hard foul on SGA, it's going to be Brown.
I'm glad that I'm not standing in front of him saying this, but I think there's a part of you that's right, that Valanciunas is a faux tough guy. You're right. He looks the part. But yeah, I would like to see it be Valanciunas simply for the fact that he's bigger, he is stronger than Bruce Brown. SGA wants to drive the lane, come on down. I got something waiting for you when you come on down. And honestly, I'd rather lose Valanciunas for the rest of the game than Bruce Brown. Yeah. Even though I understand with Valanciunas, you need some minutes from him, but the guy only plays maybe 10 to 12 minutes a game anyway. Right. I mean, it's almost like in hockey, when a star player gets hit, you know when a Tony Twist or a Bob Probert or a Rob Ray hop over the boards, they're not out there for goal scoring. Right? You
send the roughneck out there for retribution.
Right.
Or to be a bodyguard. It's twofold. He's out there to like, hey, I'm around this guy. If you come at him, I'm going to smash you. Or we saw it, and here comes the roughneck. You don't really even see that in hockey anymore because they all can skate. Those guys literally were just boxers that they would send out onto the ice.
See, I think that Lu Dort is tough. He is a terrific defensive player. However, you can make the case he is Claude Lemieux in basketball shorts. Claude Lemieux was a faux tough guy, but whenever he got into a scrap, guy turtled on the ice and wanted nothing to do with the guy who wanted to beat the hell out of him.
It's just funny. I covered Dort in person last year for 8-9 games, a couple of during the season, and that entire playoff series. I've never seen a guy built like him physically that flops more, that falls down more. I mean, Anthony Davis would always fall, but he's not considered. You don't look at his physique and go, oh my God. Dort looks like he could play linebacker in the NFL. Yeah. I mean, he is just absolutely built, and he's constantly falling down, constantly. I mean, it feels he's just not as offensive as SGA, but it feels like SGA, like if you ran him through the copy machine at 180%. So I don't know. I just don't like it. Like if he had fouled him hard, I'm fine with all of that. Yeah. It's just the nature of it was just an absolute weasel move that like, really? We're doing this now when a guy's coming up the floor? Seriously? It was just that I just cannot stand that kind of stuff. If you want to foul him. Don't pull that BS.
Coming up after the break, we've talked a lot about who could the Broncos target to be their running back. Could it be Kenneth Walker? Could it be Breece Hall? Could it be Travis Etienne? Now, after yesterday's report, could it be somebody else who the Broncos might be interested in that won't cost them a lot to bring him to Denver? Who are we talking about? That's next. Everyone has their favorite barbecue spot. Mine, Smokin' Dave's Barbecue and Brew. My favorites, slowly smoked ribs, smoked corned beef Reuben, smoked meatloaf with a portobello balsamic cream sauce. And don't forget about Smokin' Dave's 16-hour smoked brisket and pork with one of their 4 homemade barbecue sauces. Great sides, you bet. Barbecue beans made with pork and brisket and their southern corn bake. Man, you got to try it. Plus, they have amazing non-barbecue entrees on the menu. Go where I go, Smokin' Dave's Barbecue and Brew in North Denver.
Ever wondered where city and county fleet vehicles go when they retire? Now's your chance to find out and score big. Imagine driving away with a great deal on a reliable vehicle. For over 45 years, Roller Auction has been the trusted source for government fleet vehicles and equipment. Trucks, SUVs, sedans, and more, all selling to the highest bidder. Don't miss out. Visit roller.bid/hot takes to get auction updates today. Your next vehicle could be just a click away.
Everyone has their favorite sports bar. Mine, the Sportsbook Bar and Grill in Highlands Ranch, DTC, and now in Parker. All their locations are everything a sports bar should be. An upscale menu with 12 different burgers, outstanding wings, and my favorite, the Philly cheesesteak egg rolls. They've got every game on the NFL Sunday Ticket, MLB Extra Innings, NHL Center Ice, NBA League Pass, plus soccer, rugby, and UFC. Sportsbook, great hangout bar, great for private parties. The Sportsbook Bar and Grill in Highlands Ranch, DTC, and now in Parker. They are the sports bar.
Ferguson's Heating and Cooling is the best in Denver, and their customers agree. Ferguson's has 165 5-star Google reviews, and here's one from Betsy. Highly professional, prompt, and honest. I switched to Ferguson's when I became aware my former company was trying to sell me a whole new system I didn't need. Ferguson's is an honest, working, family-owned business that'll give you a fair price, the highest quality parts and equipment, and they always show up on time. You can trust the Ferguson family like you trust your own family. Go to fergusonsheatingandcooling.com.
Sasquatch and Wildcard Casinos in Blackhawk have another incredible promotion. They'll be giving away a Ford Maverick Tremor truck or nearly $25,000 in cash the weekend of May 16th. Earn daily entries with every locked-up jackpot or by redeeming points on your player card. You can also earn a chance to win during their daily cash drawings every 45 minutes between 10 a.m. and midnight. Sasquatch and Wildcard Casinos, loose slots, great promotions, great food, and a family-owned casino that treats you like family.
And welcome back. Hot Takes Goodman and Renck. Troy on location in his son's car in Scottsdale, Arizona, covering the Rockies for spring training. Time now for What's Trending.
What's Trending is presented by Ferguson's Heating and Cooling. Your family should trust the Ferguson family for all your heating and cooling needs, and you'll see why they have over 165 five-star Google reviews. Make an appointment today at fergusonsheatingandcooling.com.
ESPN's Jeremy Fowler is reporting David Montgomery wants to be traded from the Lions. That's because his role has been greatly diminished because of Jahmyr Gibbs, and Detroit is open to moving Montgomery, according to Fowler, for a fifth-round draft pick. Does this seem like a no-brainer for the Broncos for a fifth-round pick, or would they be wiser to still try and target either Kenneth Walker, Breece Hall, or Travis Etienne?
I still like Etienne a little better, more explosive, but, I mean, that price of a fifth-round pick, that's easy. And it's way less money for Montgomery than you'd pay for Etienne, but I'm not about saving that money. Like, that's, I mean, unless you're using it for something else. I always say, well, we got to keep the cap room. Like, is it our money? Like, the cap's fake money. All you have to do is convert previous long-term deals into signing bonuses. So I don't want to hear that it's a better financial deal unless it's part of another move. I like Montgomery. I think he's solid. I would prefer Etienne because of his versatility. He's just a little more explosive. I got criticism and pushback yesterday on social media of how's Etienne different than RJ Harvey because he averaged under 4 yards a carry in 2 of his seasons. Well, he was like 3.7, 3.8. RJ Harvey was 3.3 in his last 9 games as a starter. And this guy was arguing with me. He was like, so you just want to get rid of Harvey? No, I don't. The irony is he became the joker in the passing game. In the passing game, he is who Ingram was supposed to be. But you would still have a role for Harvey in the passing game. The problem that some people don't seem to realize, and part of it's because they lost for so many years, you are in a Super Bowl window. You can't sacrifice seasons anymore to develop young guys and say, oh, in year 4, look at Harvey. Well, guess what in year 4? Bo Nix is no longer on his rookie contract. And you're not going to have Zach Allen, Malcolm Roach, all these guys, or some of them are going to be gone. So that's why you've got to win now. And a guy like Montgomery, I like. Who would you prefer? Obviously there's a money difference with a free agent than Montgomery, but what do you think, Eric?
I want a guy who's consistent on the field every time he steps on the field.
Okay.
I will start with this. This is David Montgomery this past season in terms of yards per carry. And we do look at that, right? Yards per carry. That is important.
It matters.
He averaged 4.5 yards per carry. On its face, that's impressive.
Yep.
There were about, 9 games, 10. There were about 8 games this year in which he got at least 10 carries. This was his yards per carry in those games in which he got at least 10 carries. Wildly inconsistent. 2.3 yards per carry, 5.2 yards per carry, 12.6 yards per carry. Sounds good, right? How about 3.6 yards per carry, 1.6 yards per carry, 3.6, 4.7, and 2.5. That is all over the map. Now, in all fairness to him, he didn't have consistency all year because it was Jahmyr Gibbs on one series and then David Montgomery on the other series. And then Campbell finally said, Jahmyr Gibbs is a better running back, and that's why we're willing to give away David Montgomery for a fifth-round pick. The one thing I really like about Montgomery is he is elite in pass protection.
Yeah.
But you're not bringing him in to protect Bo Nix on first and second down.
Yeah, it's funny. I was lukewarm, kind of warming to Montgomery, and as you started talking, I became the Rock. I'm like,
Right.
Wait, what? Let me go back over those numbers again. You're right.
He had one huge game, and I'm not going to say it inflated his stats, but in some ways it did. When the Lions played against Baltimore in a win, he had 12 carries for 151 yards, and a lot of that was buoyed by a 72-yard run.
Yeah.
So when people look at stats, sometimes it's important to look more deeply into the stats to see the why, not just 4.5. Because if you're just looking at his yards per carry and that's it, not game by game, you're thinking great in pass pro, 4.5 yards per carry, 5th round pick, done deal.
Right.
5th round pick, yes, it is a done deal. But with that, I would go with one of the other 3 guys. And I think NTN is probably the most logical choice because of his salary.
And Travis, do I pronounce it Algier? Algier, the kid from BYU?
Atlanta.
Yeah, he's a guy, too, to keep an eye on. I like him as well. And
he's like Montgomery. He plays behind Robinson, doesn't get a lot of carries. Same thing with Montgomery. We don't know what Algier can truly do if they're planning on feeding him 15 to 20 times a game because he doesn't have that type of history.
Right. He did a little of that his rookie year, but obviously his role has shrunk. I like that maybe there's a little less tread on his tires.
Yeah.
But you're right with Montgomery. And what concerns me about that inconsistency that you brought up, running backs don't seem to come here and get better because they don't know who they are in the run game. Are they a wide zone team? Are they a power team? Last offseason, all they did was they hired a coach to implement the wide zone all April, all May, all June, training camp. And they got to the 3rd game of the season and they weren't running wide zone. They just abandoned it. And so Dobbins ran well. He was way better in the second half than first halves. But when you watch what Javonte Williams did in Dallas, and no one's happier. I love Javonte Williams, his family. I've covered his charity work multiple times. Unbelievable person. So I'm really happy he got paid. But he looked terrible his last 2 years in Denver.
Well, but there's a reason why, because he was recovering from that injury, and then he finally gets to Dallas.
I know, but that's 3 years. Recovered. It's 3 years after. It was you had to keep waiting. Well, 3 years? That's like the lifespan of a career. And, so I got why they moved on. I did. But what I'm saying is he found a scheme. When I watched him in Dallas, that looked more like the guy I saw in North Carolina. Health, regardless of health. So my point is, at some point, you keep telling me that they're one of the best run block win rate teams in the league. Why aren't they one of the best running teams then? Is it always the back, or is there something skewed on these run block win stats? Something just doesn't add up for me, Eric. Right. You keep telling me this line's great, and you and I watch it every week, and outside of Dobbins' 4 or 5 second halves, when did we watch him and say they're going to put this game away and control it on the ground? Almost never.
What I'm about to say is not meant to be a hot take. I am just relaying information. I was speaking to somebody who is very high up in the Broncos organization when Mike Shanahan was there. And I asked him very simply, and this has to do with the running game. Do you think Shanahan wins 2 Super Bowls if Alex Gibbs is not the offensive line coach? And he said, no. Now, remember, let's look at the running backs that they had. Yes, they had Terrell Davis. They had Clinton Portis. They also had a bunch of 1,000-yard rushers in Mike Anderson and Reuben Drones.
Olandis Gary. I mean, it was anybody they put back there, rolled out of bed and got 1,000 yards.
Right. So maybe it is the scheme. And to your point, they looked at a zone blocking scheme in training camp, never really used it. They looked at using Evan Ingram a lot in training camp and barely used him. Maybe it's the system that needs to change. With that, want to get into an article that you wrote for the Post saying the Broncos need to sign George Paton to a contract extension. I don't think that any reasonable person would argue with you, but would you be making the same argument if George hadn't teamed up with Sean Payton, considering George hired Nathaniel Hackett, George traded for Russell Wilson, George blew it on signing Randy Gregory to a huge free agent deal. A trifecta that honestly would have gotten most GMs fired on the spot.
Yeah, he needed Peyton to bring. It's actually when I reported out that piece, it's 2 layers. He needed Peyton. Peyton has helped streamline the draft and the types of players he wants, the metrics on players, the competitive. I mean, they make it very easy on what kind of players he wants. And it starts with can't be below a C learner and loves football. Like, so you knock out a lot of guys the way Peyton. So that helps. Second part of this that people miss, and that I found out even more while reporting it, Greg Penner has made George Paton a better manager of people. Part of the issue that Penner ran into is some of, like we talk about with Adelman. Great guy. Everyone loves him. But when he was first the GM after Elway hired him, he only did like 12 coaches interviews, and it's take everyone's opinion in, and 6, 8 people. And he had trouble finally being, boom, this is what I want to do. You get caught in between of, I listened to just the old, if you're a hitter in a slump, as I sit outside spring training, too many voices in your head. At some point, you've got to make a decision. And that was part of it. The Russell Wilson thing, I'm never going to blame them completely for that, because they had to get a quarterback. They had to.
But
they should have known more about the background part of him being complete weirdo off the field. I didn't even know that. And I knew people that knew Russell. I had no idea how far he'd gone off the rails. But if you're going to make that trade, that's something that should have come up, like, hey, why is he so available? I mean, you can talk yourself into why he is over just the contract, but they needed the PI. They needed someone behind the scenes to say, hey, just so you know, this guy has gotten really odd in the locker room. And that's the part I blame George. You've got to know that before you buy. You've got to know that. And Randy Gregory was a terrible move. There was no hindsight by all of us. It's a terrible move. As soon as you get him out of Dallas, where he's been babysat for 5 years and literally kept in the fold because of one owner taking him in like a son, it's not going to work anywhere else. And it didn't. But George's process, which is crazy, he should have been fired. I wrote it in the summer. He deserved to be fired. Now he deserves his flowers. His 2021 draft class now is the core of this team. He's already signed 5 guys to extensions that he's drafted. Bo Nix will be the 6th. Elway in the 10 years prior to that had 3. Yeah. This is why they got George Paton. In Minnesota, Eric, they led the league in second contracts. That's how you build teams. But he knows, trust me, I've talked to George about this. He knows how fortunate he was not to get fired. But to Greg Penner's credit, he exercised patience and basically gave George a start over, a do-over. George helped him navigate a coaching search they'd never been through. And then he set up this triumvirate where it's like, George, you report to Greg. Sean, you report to Greg. I'm going to see how you two get along. And if I like it, you stay. And for as crazy as it sounds, George Paton and Sean Payton completely balance each other out. Yeah. Sean's volcanic. George is as measured as any guy in that building. So it works. But do I think he would have kept his job in 99% of circumstances? No, I do not. He would have been fired.
Getting back to the whole thing with Russell Wilson, when you have a team like Seattle that has a slam dunk first ballot Hall of Famer playing quarterback, and they are beyond eager to get rid of him, you got to really do a little bit more research as to why. It's kind of like the hottest girl in the area code, right? If her longest relationship is a month, there's probably a reason for that. And what I'm about to say is totally unfair. If you are a man or a woman and you meet, and this is just the way it is, I'm not saying anything to criticize anybody. But if you are a man and you meet a woman who is 45 years old and never married, or if you meet a man who is 45 years old and never married, there's probably a reason for it. And that is something to look at. And I'm not trying to paint it with a broad brush there, but in the singles world, something that I used to be a part of, I would have women say that to me. I met a guy who, is 45 years old, never married, never had any kids. or I would meet someone when I was dating and she's 45 years old and she's never been married. And then you get to know her a little bit and you're thinking, I wouldn't marry you either, right? Because they're even though you're great looking and you have a great career, there's something a little off about you. And I don't think spending the rest of my life with you makes a lot of sense. George should have seen that about Russell Wilson. Why does a team that has a first ballot Hall of Famer, why are they dying to unload him so much?
I mean, again, the reason was Russell wanted another bite at the apple. And Seattle, again, the surface.
What do you mean by bite at the apple?
He wanted another contract. And they were pissed because they felt like he was holding them hostage. He remember it was like, let Russ cook, let Russ cook. He had become bigger than the organization.
Yes.
After Marshawn left, after Richard Sherman left.
But they allowed it. But Seattle allowed the kid to tear apart the room.
Right. And when they were tolerating his behavior and his growing power, and then the final straw was he went back and said, I want another contract. That pissed them off. Like, wait, we give you everything around here, and now you want more money? And so what you're asking is like, how did it get to that? But that's how the Broncos rationalized it. He wanted more money. We've got more money. We've never paid him before, and they did it. And again, I'm never going to penalize a team for going for it. Because we all sit here and say, oh, they never do anything. They never do it. And then they go for it like, oh, yes, sometimes you get into the batter's box and you strike out. So in Peyton's case, he lucked out. New ownership came in. Part of the reason this stuff happened was because of the ownership drama. George wasn't ready for a role where it was absentee ownership. He needed that as a first-time GM, even though he'd been an assistant for, 14 years? He needed an owner to kind of be the checks and balances. He wasn't. He's trying to play this democratic role with 10 executives, and so like Greg Penner, do you think if Greg had issues with Russell, he wouldn't have said something? He would have been, hey, I don't like this. We're not doing it. That would have been it. George didn't have that. I'm not making excuses. I'm just trying to tell you how this all happened. Desperation is the world's worst cologne. You get in that position. God, we need a quarterback. And let's be honest, they thought it was going to be Rodgers when they hired Hackett. Yeah. They'll never say that. They did. And then as soon as it wasn't, they had to switch. And they went all in on Russell and realized, oh, God, he's declining, which is one thing, but he's just not a fit in the locker room. But he survived it. He survived it because his process and the way George scouts, and you can't say it's just Peyton. Peyton has helped, but go look at his drafts in Minnesota. I mean, the guy's really good at that, and he's gone from being kind of a scouting director to being a better manager of people because of Greg Penner.
There were two moments when I knew very, very early Russell Wilson was a huge mistake. Number one, when Hackett got hired, and he sounded like a new kid who got a brand new shiny bike underneath the Christmas tree, yelling out, "We got Russell Wilson!" And you knew he was going to acquiesce to anything that Russell wanted. That was number one. Number two, the first time that I saw Russell Wilson in practice, taking a snap in which I was facing the offensive line and looking at Wilson's backside, which went from tackle to tackle.
Oh, stop.
He did not come in shape. And I'm thinking, this guy has legs like tree trunks. The problem is his ass is muffin topping those thighs of his, because he wanted to be a quarterback that sat in the pocket and wanted to absorb punishment. And that's not the type of quarterback that Russell Wilson is, should be, ever will be. He wanted to be a different type of quarterback, and he put on the weight to say, I'm ready for this, and Hackett acquiesced and agreed. So we knew this within a matter of months.
I don't think that Hackett liked Russell ever, because he's a Rodgers guy, and there's no way you could watch and know people that know Aaron and people that know Russell. There's like those people would never be friends. The way Aaron acts and the way Russell does, never. I mean, oil and water. So part of it was an act from Hackett to be, I love Russell. And I agree with you. It was like, take your kid to work day when he showed up as the head coach. Like, what is this guy doing here? What scared me, it's not just the weight, but the weight with Russell was noticeable. his magic power and superpower in Seattle was like Roger Staubach, run around and make plays. And in that whole camp, he never ran around. I'm like, holy crap.
He couldn't.
He's not going to do that, though. That's his superpower. The other thing that was very obvious early in the season, he didn't know what he was watching in this field.
Yeah.
He basically lived on coloring outside the lines. When he had to sit in the pocket, something he wanted to do, he didn't know what the hell he was seeing beyond the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
As like a 10-year vet, he literally couldn't read defenses anywhere near what you would think based on his career. So, yeah, but thank God those days are over.
When he was running with the ball with the Broncos in his first season, all I thought to myself was, Russell, unhook the trailer. Because it looks like you are dragging a trailer behind you. With that, that's going to do it for us. Hot Takes Goodman and Renck. Troy, I know you need to hop into the Rockies locker room. Say hello to a bunch of guys that you probably haven't met before.
Exactly. It's weird. I used to love this because by this time in spring, you knew everybody. I'm going to be walking around looking. There's like 3 guys I know, Tovar, Doyle, because Blackman's gone. And who's the other guy I knew well that's gone now? Well, Vinny Castillo, I'll see him, so that'll be great. But there's only like 3 or 4 guys. Kyle Freeland, I'll know.
Right. That's
Most
right.
of the that's like the very few guys are even left from when I last covered baseball. So I'm looking forward to it, Eric.
Well, hopefully all the guys are walking around for you with name tags that say, hello, my name is. Make it the best possible day you can.